Hi everyone. El imperativo de usted y ustedes con pronombres de objeto de red. This PowerPoint presentation is meant to accompany the exercise that we did in our Zoom class. And let's take a look. So from when we studied affirmative to commands, we already know that direct object, indirect object, and reflexive pronouns, which we've been calling the rid pronouns, attach to the end of affirmative commands. Here are some examples. Prepárela, which means prepare it. Dele la cuenta, give her the bill. Sírvase café, serve yourself coffee. Now you can see that the pronoun la, the pronoun le, and the pronoun se all attach to the verb in the command form, in the usted command form. New in this chapter, when any command is negative, object pronouns go in front of the verb. Examples. No la prepare, don't prepare it. No le dé la cuenta, don't give her the bill. No se sirva café, don't serve yourself coffee. Now you can see the le, the la, and the se are in front of the verb this time. Ahora hagamos la actividad modificada del cuaderno. I'm going to show you the exercise that I attached to the last assignment, step by step. Instrucciones. Para cada ejemplo, conjugamos el verbo en el imperativo formal y reemplazamos el pronombre de objeto. So for each example, we're going to conjugate the verb in the usted command, and we're going to replace the pronoun. We're going to replace the noun, the direct object, with the direct object pronoun. La primera respuesta pondremos en forma afirmativa y la segunda en forma negativa. La diferencia determinará dónde pondremos cada pronombre de objeto. So in the first answer, we're going to answer affirmatively, yes, and in the second answer, negatively, no. The difference will determine where we put each object pronoun. Repasemos los tres pasos para formar el imperativo formal. Empiecen con la forma de yo de presente de indicativo. Quiten la O, agreguen la terminación opuesta. ¿Qué quiere decir la terminación opuesta? La terminación opuesta, para verbos en AR agregamos E, para verbos en ER agregamos A, y para verbos en IR agregamos A. So for AR verbs, for usted commands, we add an E. For ER verbs, we add an A. And for IR verbs, we add an A. Note those two endings are the same. Ahora la actividad. Leer la receta. Lea usted la receta. Léala usted. No la lea usted. So watch what happened. I have la receta, which is a direct object, and I replaced it with the direct object pronoun la. And I attached it to the affirmative command léala, and I put it in front of the negative command no la lea. It's an ER verb, so the A ending, which is the opposite ending we call it, is in place throughout. And notice we added an accent to maintain the original sound of the verb, and we added a syllable by adding the direct object pronoun. Number 2, asar las chuletas. ¿Hace usted las chuletas? ¿Hacelas usted? No las hace usted. So las chuletas is the direct object. We replaced it with direct object pronouns. It's an AR verb, so we have the opposite ending throughout. And we added an accent mark to maintain the original sound of the verb when we attached the syllable to the affirmative command. Number 3, picar el ajo. Pique usted el ajo, píquelo usted, and no lo pique usted. So we have el ajo is the direct object. We replace a masculine singular direct object with lo, and we see that in pique lo attached the affirmative, and no lo pique before the negative. It's an AR verb. It has the opposite ending throughout. And notice we had to change the C in picar to the QU in pique because the only way to spell the sound K in Spanish is QUE. We added an accent mark to maintain the original sound of the verb that we added a syllable to. Number 4, pelar los pepinos. Pele usted los pepinos? Pélelos usted? No los pele usted. Now a note about why I'm saying usted in all of these. Usually when you call someone usted, you call them usted at every opportunity that you can call them usted. I notice that with the people who speak Spanish in the school, when they talk to me, they use usted as much as I'm using here. Now, if you were talking to your grandmother or grandfather, maybe you wouldn't do that quite as much, but it is something to get used to. It's a form of courtesy, and it certainly won't seem wrong. So to err on the side of putting it in too often is better than to err on the side of putting it in too infrequently. So what happened with los pepinos? That was the direct object. We replaced it with los, attached to the affirmative before the negative. AR verb, we see the opposite ending throughout, and we added an accent mark to maintain the original sound. Number 5, freír el pollo. Now, freír is an unusual verb because it has a strong vowel E and a weak vowel I in the same syllable, and it wants to break those into two, so it put an accent mark on the weak vowel of that combination. So when we conjugate, the same thing is going to happen. We need to separate, in this verb, we need to separate those two syllables. So in fría usted el pollo, fríalo, and no lo fría usted, we see the accent mark carry throughout. El pollo is the direct object. We see the direct object pronoun attached to the affirmative and before the negative. We see an IR verb that has the opposite ending in each case. And really, we're not adding an accent mark there, but that is there and maintains the sound. So you can't have two. Lavar las legumbres. Lave usted las legumbres. Lávelas usted. No las lave usted. So las legumbres is the direct object, and the direct object pronoun is las. We see it attached to the affirmative command, and we see it before the negative command. We have an AR verb with the opposite ending throughout, and we added an accent to maintain the original sound of the verb when we attach the syllable las to lave. Abrir las latas. Abra usted las latas. Ábralas usted. No las abra usted. Las latas is the direct object. We replaced it with the pronoun las. We attached it to the affirmative command. It went before the negative command. We have an IR verb with the A ending throughout because we use the opposite ending for usted commands. And we added an accent mark to maintain the original sound of the verb when we attached the direct object pronoun to the affirmative command. Picar las cebollas. Pique usted las cebollas. Píquelas usted. No las pique usted. Las cebollas is the direct object, replaced it with las. We attached it to the affirmative command. It went before, and we put it before the negative command. We have an AR verb with the opposite ending throughout. The only way to spell K in Spanish is QUE, so pique can only be spelled PIQUE. And we added an accent mark to maintain the original sound of the verb when we attached the pronoun to the affirmative command. Number 9, hervir is an E to IE stem changing verb. Since the yo form has the stem change, we're going to see it in the command form. El agua, by the way, el agua is feminine. It says el agua. You put the L in front of it instead of the la in front of it so that you can hear it. It would be lagua without it. It's el agua with it. Hierba usted el agua. Remember that's feminine, so hierba la usted. And no la hierba usted. So we have el agua as the direct object. We replaced it with a direct object pronoun, but remember it's feminine, so it's going to be feminine throughout. We have the opposite ending, and we put an accent mark on the strong vowel to emphasize that blended syllable. I is weak, E is strong. The way I remember that is you and I are weak, the rest of the vowels are strong. And if you want the blended syllable to stand out, then you put the accent mark on the strong vowel. If you want to break it into two, you put the accent mark on the weak vowel. añadir el ajo, añada el ajo, añádalo usted, añada usted. So we see el ajo as the direct object replaced with the pronoun lo, attached to the affirmative and before the negative. We have an IR verb and we see the opposite ending throughout, and we added an accent mark to maintain the original sound of the verb when we attached the pronoun to the affirmative command. Number 11, rebanar el pan. Rebanar means to slice, but I only ever have heard it used with the word pan, and I looked in the dictionary, and the example they give is pan, and it says in parentheses pan. So you only rebanar pan. For some reason, ham and roast beef and things like that, you cortar en rebanadas, which means cut in slices rather than slice. Rebane usted el pan. Rebánelo usted. No lo rebane usted. So we see the direct object el pan replaced with lo, attached to the affirmative, and before the negative. We have an AR verb with the opposite ending throughout, and we added an accent mark to maintain that original sound of the verb when we added a syllable to it. Number 12, revolver los huevos. We know that revolver, like volver, is a stem changing verb. There's the stem change in the yo form, so we're going to see it in the usted command because it starts with the yo form, drop the yo, add the opposite ending. Revuelva usted los huevos. Revuélvalos usted. No los revuelva usted. So los huevos is the direct object replaced by los in both instances, attached to the affirmative and before the negative. It's an ER verb with the opposite ending, and we added an accent mark to the strong vowel in the UE. U is weak. U is a weak vowel, E is a strong vowel. When we want to emphasize the blended syllable, instead of breaking it into two syllables, we put the accent mark on the strong vowel. 13. Tapar la cazuela. Tape usted la cazuela. Tápela usted. No la tape usted. So we have la cazuela, and that's being replaced with the direct object pronoun la. We attached it to the affirmative command, and we put it before the negative command. AR verb has the opposite ending throughout, and we added an accent mark to maintain the original sound of the verb when we added a syllable to it when we attached the direct object pronoun to the usted affirmative command. Number 14, limpiar la cocina. Limpie usted la cocina. Limpiela usted. No la limpia usted. La cocina is the direct object, and we see it in la. It's replaced, with la, and it's attached to the affirmative, and it goes before the negative. It's an AR verb. We see the opposite ending throughout, and we see the accent mark added to maintain that original sound of the verb when we added a syllable. Now, limpie usted la cocina, or limpiela usted, would be a very weird thing to say. If somebody you call usted is at your house, you're probably the one who should clean the kitchen. So that's kind of a weird command when it has to do with the kitchen. No la limpie usted would be something I think you'd be much more likely to hear. Okay, so I hope this helped you through the exercise and cemented this as an idea that you will carry with you to next year in Spanish, because this form is very important because it forms the formation of a verbal mood called the present subjunctive. And that is the end of the presentation. Hasta luego y gracias por escuchar. And as it's very near the end of the year, Elmo would like to say goodbye.